Hello, 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 hello. Thank you for tuning in to Truth Be Told podcast. I'm your host, Britt. Today we got a good one, guys. I am preloading my new season three. I am so excited for Phil, the Blurred Explorer, to come on here and talk a little bit more about him traveling and just a little bit more about him being an explorer. Thank you, Phil. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me on your platform.
Yes, thank you for breaking me out of retirement. I say, I've been wanting to come back to Truth Be Told, but I wanted to change the way I did it. This season, I am going to focus more on books, ebooks, anything anybody is doing that is just needing some exposure or just like us helping each other. So,
Right.
thank you for taking the time.
No, no. Thank you for actually saying yes. Glad me
No,
coming to your show.
no, I'm cool, calm, and collect. And I want to shout out Trey the Glue. He's definitely on here. He's always shouting me out. He's my PR. Thank you, Trey. Thank you for always believing in me and trusting in me. This season I'm gonna bring you more fire. So welcome. So before we get started, guys, if you are new to this channel, please go like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube. That definitely helps me out. Let me know what books you guys are reading and what ebooks or anything that you got going on. Before we go into your ebook, can you give us a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing? What you got going on today?
Sure, sure. So my background, for those who don't know me, my name is Philip. I go by the Blur Explorer on both TikTok and Instagram. I like and my excuse me. So I recently just moved back to the USA. I moved to Atlanta last July after living 9 years in South Korea. I moved there around May 15th, 2016, right out of college, to teach English abroad in Korea. I had stayed there for 9 years. And then I made the transition back to the USA around literally on the 4th of July, and then moved July 4th, 2025, and then moved to Atlanta to start my current job, which is I'm an ESOL teacher here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, well, congratulations for one for transitioning from being international to coming back over to the U.S. Shout out to being on the East Coast. I'm from
Yeah.
North Carolina,
Right.
so I miss the weather.
Yeah.
Texas is a little dry, so
Right. That was on my list. And funny enough, I thought about Charlotte, North Carolina was actually on my list. I made a video talking about this, that if North Carolina teacher pay was a lot higher, I would have definitely moved to Charlotte for sure. That was on my top list. Um, when I was making my exit strategy, my plans for where I want to move back to USA, I was thinking about what cities to move to. Charlotte was on my top list. I thought about Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, Arizona, New York City. It wasn't I think around mid late 2024 or early 2025. One of my TikTok friends, she who's from Atlanta, she mentioned that she's gonna move back there. I'm like, okay, maybe that's a good idea. And then another TikTok follower of mine, she mentioned Gwinnett County to possibly become an ESOL, so which is like English as second language. So I
mhm.
looked online. I'm like, oh wow, teacher pay is really good. I looked at North Carolina. So I'm like, I don't know. But aside the teacher pay, which was one of the big reasons I chose Georgia, but Atlanta has a lot of things that attracted me to the city itself. That I said, okay, let me move here.
Mhm. I love Atlanta. I love how it gravitates, but basically towards Black people too.
Right.
It's so much exposure and so many opportunities for us. Thank you for letting me know the difference because North Carolina and Atlanta are not far from each
Right.
other, like maybe 4 hours,
Yeah.
tops. So it's crazy to know that in a growing city, especially Charlotte, that the pay is so different. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and also I want to get into your ebooks. I
Sure.
know you've traveled several places. I do see that you currently have two out that you shared with me. You're probably working on more stuff behind the scenes. But tell us what made you decide to even write a ebook about traveling.
Well, for my content, I mainly so I started. Well, actually, yeah, I started back in 2020. around like May 2020, I've already did black travel content because a lot of time, growing up, I didn't really see a lot of black travel representation. Like seeing like any black folk traveling abroad, living overseas, and being African American. The only times I ever seen or heard that happening, of course, and maybe you understand this too. Like a lot of black folk, most often times who traveled a little abroad, they were in the military, like almost always. Like from my experience, maybe there's one, two bougie aunties who's done that though, but a lot of times it's mostly military folk, right? In around 2020, spring 2020 with COVID lockdowns, I had a lot of free time. And I think I was watching a webinar about ways to make some money. And I got the idea of why not make a black travel guidebook for the city of Incheon, South Korea, which I was living in at the time. So around summer 2020, I went around the city of Incheon, looking at different spots, and then made my first book, and which is no longer available, the Black Travel's Guide to Incheon, South Korea. And it did pretty good for a first time author.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made my next one the following year with one for the city of Daegu, South Korea. I think released that in 2021, and both books did pretty well. Again, both books for first time new author, I did pretty good. But then I thought, okay, since there's demand for this stuff and people support it and there's demand for it, I figured why not make a big old black travel guidebook on South Korea. Mm-hmm. And so from 2021 until literally, I want to say at the end of December, like early January 2026, I finished writing it.
Yeah.
And then, funny enough, around 2023, I was on winter break, playing for my upcoming winter break. Once the Korean school year ended, I figured, what's my next move? What should I go for vacation? And I thought, okay, what about Thailand? I've never been there before. I was wanting to go because I've been watching a lot of those food travel related videos on YouTube, and I figured, why not go? So I went, and funny enough, when I got to the airport, one of my friends of mine, my Smash Bros. Friend of mine, Victor, who lives in Korea too, he's still there. I saw him walk into the check-in counter, to the same check-in counter for me at the airport. I'm like, Victor, is that you, man? And it turns out he was going for work. He was going to Bangkok, Thailand for work. So we met up, went to the night markets, had some fun. I got food poisoning that night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then while I was laid up, just back in 2023, I was laid up in my hotel room. I was thinking about the idea of making a black travel guidebook for Thailand came over me because I've seen a lot of black folk traveling to Thailand mostly over the years. No one's really made this type of book before, so why not do that? And then I kind of decided, and then I tacked on Siem Reap, Cambodia, because a friend of mine, TikTok friend of mine, she's been going to Cambodia. I was watching TikToks. I'm like, okay, this seems pretty cool. I don't really see any black folk talking about Cambodia or Siem Reap. So why not go for it? So I went there in 2024. Loved it, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna do this 2-for-1. Make left side, first half's gonna be for Thailand, and the second half's gonna be for Siem Reap, Cambodia. Now, for both books, what you probably know between the Thailand book and the Korea book is the lack of content. There's still enough for you people to get going, have things to do, but the difference is, one, of course, I lived in Korea, so I have plenty of times to go on the weekends to travel all places in Korea, whereas like Thailand and Cambodia, hey, I only have like one time vacation time to go, so I can only get what I can do in that time space.
I love how you took your experiences from traveling, being international, spending time in South Korea, and also having time in Thailand to be able to give Black people that content. Because as you stated, like we don't see, depending on your background, you don't see a lot of Black people traveling international unless they're in the military or they got the silver spoon or whatever the case may be. Now, I do want to commend us because I am starting to see more Black people travel international now. You know, as far as me, I can honestly say, like, I have been grateful to be able to travel international. I haven't been to Thailand yet, so I'm so excited to hear a little bit more. I actually have a friend that moved her whole family to Thailand, and she's a teacher as well, and she just started a family, and she tells the benefits of like the culture. So one thing that you can speak to the audience, like as being a Black traveler, can you give us some insight on like the culture versus being in the United States?
Right. Well, also like a lot of places, especially in Asia, it's very collectivist society for sure. It's all about the community, all about the group. I would also say, funny enough, I actually thought about teaching English in Thailand too, but once I saw the teacher pay over there, I said, nope, absolutely not. It ain't worth it. Maybe if I was in my 20s, I'm 35 now, but
Right.
but it's that time of money. It's like, okay, I was in my early 20s, then maybe we were struggling, but it's like I can still do it. But it's like, okay, I'm in my 30s, I need a job with retirement and pension. I need an actual career, so that's why I didn't go there. Now I know there's an option to teach at international schools, but international schools tend to be very competitive. But speaking of traveling while Black, of course, one of the challenges of traveling while Black is, of course, people will be staring, especially in Asia, where people will be stopping and staring. Because a lot, well, maybe not so much in not so much in Bangkok, but outside the major cities in the Asian countries, you'll see a lot of people staring. Because let's be real, most times, if folks haven't interacted or seen Black folk, it's usually because of what they see on TV or what they hear from white people, or what they hear from Black people. And if they ever learn English, like a lot of cases, especially in South Korea, maybe in Thailand too, majority of their English teachers are almost always a white person. Now, I will admit, is there some English behind it? Yes. But at the same time, it's like, it's not hard. At the same time, there's I can somewhat sympathize, because a lot of times, a lot of these Asian schools, both public sector and private public schools and private English academies, they almost always prefer, they will only hire white people. So for my time personally, outside, I never lived in Seoul. The biggest city I lived to closest to Seoul was Incheon, and most of the schools, I was their first non-white English teacher that they ever had.
Oh, wow. Being the first non-white teacher, how was that?
It was a good experience. It's an interesting experience. The kids got, honestly, day one, the kids, blew their minds, like, oh my God, we got a Black guy for a teacher. I know I'm on both of them. Some were a little intimidated by me because I'm a big dude. Like, I'm 6'7".
Yeah.
And there's one time I had one child cry and run away. This is around like 2.5 years old. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, now he did the same thing to the white teachers, but he got used to them quicker than me.
Yeah.
Usually we became best buds afterwards, so it took a while, but we're cool. But I think it's one of those experiences that helps show the kids, like, hey, what you see on TV, because a lot of times, like I said, what they see on TV plays a big impression of what they think about the cultures and media. And a lot of times they think, when they see me, they think, I must be a basketball player, a rapper. I'm like, nope, I play Pokemon, I play Super Smash Bros. In games. I got nothing like that.
Yes, I'm not the stereotypical Black person that you see on TV. Just like when we're traveling, if like you're going places like Africa or somewhere, it's not everywhere in Africa is poor. Like sometimes they like to demonstrate. In your case, when you were teaching and you were living international, what were some of the benefits that you can share with the Black travelers and just travelers in general, that would be a good insight that they could use while traveling?
I think for one, you appreciate a lot more things. You become appreciative of things, right? Like, for example, in terms of apartments, I got my own apartment, my first apartment in my life. I appreciate it more because, hey, I got a place that's mine, that's under my name, but also I got space because I'm a big dude. And the Korean partners I had, they didn't have much room for me to stretch or do anything, And you do, another thing you do, you appreciate the family you got. Sometimes you get, depending on how everybody's family is different, the group of friends, the family you have back at home, if you always in contact with them, you do appreciate that friendship relationships a lot more. I think for sure, living abroad, I came a lot closer to my sister and my cousin Leandra. We were there, but we weren't like actually like sibling, talking to each other every week, talking on a regular. But just living abroad, and watching your family and friends having to upload, yearly Thanksgiving cookouts, meals, and it's like, damn, I wish I was there. So you do miss out on a lot of stuff, or like big moments, like middle school, high school graduations, weddings, funerals. So these are one of the things you do appreciate. And I think you also grow a slight of more independence in a way, because you live up, not only because you out of your comfort zone, and also the fact that, and also you do get appreciative of what's like to be a native son. And I know it sounds crazy to say, but literally it's one of those things like being a Black American, having a U.S. passport before Trump came and ruined it. It does it does provide a unique sense of power, like comfortability, because unfortunately, passport privilege is a real thing, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I'm sure Caribbeans and Africans will tell you that a lot of Africans and Caribbean folk, Black folk from the other diaspora will tell you that, hey, I face discrimination, or when it comes to like for them to travel and live overseas, they got to go through hoops and bounds, you know, to travel, do basic travel, right? Whereas me as a Black American, I can show my American passport, be like, oh, no problem, have a good day.
Right.
Whereas like as the African passport holder, be like, come back here, come to the back room with us, we gotta talk. You know what I mean?
Well, I love how you embrace being a teacher, international, and just traveling abroad and bringing the experience from South Korea, from Thailand over to the US. If a traveler was traveling today, like what would be like one or two good tips that you could give them, especially the Black travelers, because like you say all the time, it's not a lot of us that do travel.
Right.
So what would be something that they could use just as a good tip as far as with the money, the currency, or even their clothes?
Right.
What would you suggest?
Oh, definitely when it comes to clothes. Not so much in Korea, but definitely places like Thailand, or like where like pickpocketing is can occur. Definitely watch what you wear. Like, don't have the newest like fresh kicks and Jordans and whatnot. You got just like going to Walmart, basically, if that makes sense. Like, you're just going out to do your quick shopping and you're going home, because a lot of times that's put a target on your back, for
Mhm.
trouble. And of course, like, with Black exclusion, like, something doesn't feel right, you feel something in your gut, and like, you know what, maybe let me not go down this road. I'm gonna take the long way home.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing, I would say, another travel tip: look out for the taxis, like especially in any country. Where do the taxi drivers go? Like, you
Mhm.
see, if you're in front of a restaurant, you're walking down the street, and you look around and you see a bunch of taxis outside of this restaurant. That's the spot to go to. That is
I
the spot
love
to
it.
go to.
I love it. Do you have any other tips or any other things that you could
Mm,
share?
Um, well, there's nothing wrong going to major cities like a lot of folks do, including myself. Try to look at the other cities in the countries you want to visit too. Of course, obviously do research, figure out what's safe to go to. Um, Women, to all my lady friends, viewers, watch your drinks. Always cover your drinks, eyes on the bartender at all times. I don't care how cute that guy is you're talking to, or girl, or your purpose is. Eyes on the drink we had at the bar, because unfortunately, like just like here in America, some folk be spiking their drinks and stuff.
No, I love that you said that. I actually had a bad experience traveling by myself.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was like one of the first places I had went to, and I had to be very mindful of the person that was actually serving me the drink, because at the time they was really trying to take advantage of me, and that they could tell that I was American, by the way I was dressed. And then that's when I started learning quickly. I said, hey, like, okay, Brittany, stop traveling with all this, like the
yeah,
jewelry and stuff. You don't need all of that traveling. Be simple. I'm like, okay, let's be more simple, because when I'm traveling, you do see that, no, depending on where you're at, international, you do see that they're more simple versus we're a little bit more, Black
yeah,
people, we like to be very loud, very flashy, which I love that about us. I don't take that away from us, but like you said, it's also just being mindful of your surroundings, being
yeah,
mindful of who you're talking to or where you're at.
yeah.
um, when you were in Thailand, I know a lot of Black people are gravitating towards Thailand now. Can
Oh,
you
yeah.
give us any reasons why of that?
I know cost is a big factor too. The weather, the beaches, the food, the culture. There's so many other reasons why people go. Um, I would say another big travel tip, I'm sure a lot of us seeing those videos where Americans talking about how I quit my job to move overseas to another country, especially cases
Hmm.
like Thailand, where they're talking about I pay $700 or $1,000 a month for my rent for downtown Bangkok, Seoul, wherever it may be. Right?
Hmm.
One, do not listen to those people, because the biggest question you got to ask yourself is this: how are they making the money? Are they getting paid in USD or in the local currency?
Hmm.
Because the math ain't math, you really do it. Think about it. Because now, if they do disclose that, hey, I'm making my money through USD, and I got, like, say they're working, like, say, at a big international school or a big Fortune 500 company. Okay, cool. I could probably hack it, but most of the times it's on a course, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of times they'd be exaggerating, Because for one, because if you get paid in local currency, you ain't living downtown like that. There ain't no way. Unless you really get a big bank, like an international school, like your school's covering your housing or something like that. Or like say you work at a really big Fortune 500 company, like there ain't no way, no normal person. You basically be like here in the USA, like you'll be on the outskirts, like about like a 30, 45-minute commute or something like that from downtown because of the cost of living. And another thing that people don't talk about enough, and I think one, especially living overseas now, immigration. Like when you're on a work visa, you're tied to that. Like there's so many limits you can only do on a certain visa. Yes, I know there's always the those remote work visas. But one thing I don't think a lot of people realize, okay, you never know. Visa laws always change. The prices can increase every year. It's just on how much. And on top of that, what if one day they say, okay, we're canceling all remote work visas? Like, what's going to happen? People are going to leave. And on top of that, are you going to be ready to do those visa runs like every 30 days, 60, 90, a year, 2 years? Because that gets tiring to deal with all the time. And not to mention, when you go to the immigration office, like when I was in Korea, I'm not religious myself, but even I'd be praying like, Lord, please let the immigration officer be having a good day. Because you got to say, good, you're good, one more year, $500, $200, or say, nope, you got to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That easy.
Yep.
And you wouldn't be able to appeal it or do anything about it.
Maybe, if you're lucky, depending on the country, but just one of those things like you're hoping the officer's having a good day.
Oh, wow. And see, I'm very religious, so I would be like, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Yes.
Like,
and another thing too, especially living overseas, is it does get harder to make friends as you get older. Because I know a lot of us make other foreign friends because they understand what it's like to live abroad, right? But I'll put it like this. In Korea, for example, imagine we're both we're 22, we recently graduated college, right? You're in a group of friends, in a group of 10 friends, right? First year. By year 3, you're down to 5 people. By year 4, you're down to 4 people. By year 6, 3 people are remaining, you and 2 other people. By year 7, you're down to 1 other person, and that person is mostly married to a local, and they got a wife and kid or whatnot. Yeah. And so your friendship gets smaller and smaller every year because people either decide to move to another country to work or decide to move back home. And so the loneliness part does get hard to deal with as you get older. And even though I'm an introvert, though, hey, even most introverts like myself, we still got to socialize and talk to people, you know.
I love how you bring that out about being international, overseas, or whatever the case may be, as far as what is important to you. I think anything you do in life, you should always direct that question back. What is important to you? Because you mentioned family. I'm not far. Well, I'm in Texas, which is 16 hours pretty much away from where my family is. And even though I'm not like, in Africa or the DR or whatever, I still understand what you mean as far as, okay, you miss birthdays, you miss funerals, you have to get back if you can. If you can't, you're going to miss it. So being a Black traveler, I think that comes into play depending on where you're at in life, whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, or so on.
Another thing I'm sorry, sorry to cut you off though. Is it mind if I add this one other point too? I think another thing a lot of Black travelers need to consider when it comes to living overseas is, will living abroad either help or hurt your career? That's something that no one talks about too, especially coming from somebody who taught English abroad. It can be a fun experience, but the thing is, as you get older, your career stalls so quickly. And that's one of the reasons like I said, I moved back to the USA because now personally, I'm not an education major. I got I did one of those, Teach for America's teacher certification programs, right, to get my license. And pretty much by the time I hit 31, I think my career stalled from a professional financial standpoint. Like, okay, there's no way to go up. I'm not gonna make any more money if I got my license. I got more masters, I got more degrees, right? I would still be making the same amount of money in Korea. Maybe other countries will probably get a little bit more, but it's one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about. Doesn't get talked about enough. Is okay. Teaching English can be as a great experience in your early 20s and 20s, but when you get in 30s and up, it's like, okay, your career stalls And if you do go back home, what are you going to do? Because unless you're going to stay in education, then obviously, or does some type of education field, working with kids, you can probably pivot. You can still use that experience, get some money out of it, right? But somebody of those who aren't in education, who spend those 10, 15, 20 years in Korea, they didn't take the time to learn new skill, get certificates, or what have you. When they try to go back home and get a job, employers are going to look at that resume and be like, bro, you were there. What were you doing for those past 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
Exactly. And they got started. And then now that person, it happens a lot. That person got started over like they're back in a 20-year-old. So that's one thing. That's one thing I kind of started pivoting on my own TikTok, my own platform, try to tell people, hey, if you're living abroad for this amount of time, great. You think about moving back home, regardless of whether the economy is good or bad, I say learn a new skill, build a resume before you leave. So that way, for the field, the interest you want to go to, so that way when you do move back home and try to find a job you want to get into that industry, you're like, okay, at least you got that experience. You did some remote work. The fire jobs to build that resume to help you.
I love it. I love the tips. I love all of the different things that you have been talking about as far as, taking in consideration if you decide to work abroad, if you decide to move your family abroad, depending on where you're at in your life. If you were talking to yourself, a couple of years ago before you decided to move abroad, would you have still decided to go that route?
Oh, absolutely. But if I had known what I know now, I would have said, get your teacher license sooner.
Okay.
I would say get my license sooner. And I talked about this. Made multiple videos about this. Excuse me. That knowing what I know now, I wish I stayed in Korea for 9 years, but knowing what I know now, like I wish I left Korea sooner from a professional standpoint. Money wise, of course, teaching wise, if I had like say those four, if I did like say four. If I left by say year 5 or 6, something like that, then it's like, okay, when I move back home, like say if I left in like say 2019 and fast forward to 2025, I'd probably make a lot more money teaching wise here. Whereas if I started now, right? I'm basically making year 0 salary at my current district, but if I left earlier, I'd probably be making a lot more now. You feel me? So
I love the self-awareness. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you for sharing the tips. Thank you for letting us know about your ebooks to South Korea and on Thailand as being on a Black Traveler's Guide. Can you let the audience know where they can actually find your ebooks, where they're available?
Yes. So you can find the Black Traveler's Guide to South Korea and the Black Traveler's Guide to Thailand and Siem Reap, Cambodia. Wherever you find ebooks, they're available right now for purchase for digital. Physical books will come out later. I am also planning to sign up for, if you're in Atlanta, Georgia, around June. I think it was June 13th. Yeah, I think it's called Shop Blackfest in Atlanta. I will be there. Hopefully, I have physical books for that.
Awesome.
And then the following week, around June 19th to the 21st, is going to be the Juneteenth Festival. So I'm looking also to be out there as well, selling the physical versions of those books as well. So, so if you want to get copies of that, follow me for that, for any information on that. And of course, you can follow me on my socials at The Blerd Explorer on both TikTok and IG.
Look, you already, that was the next thing I was going to ask you. Where can we find you at on social media? So thank you, Phil, so much for taking the time out with me. Is there any other tips or anything else you would like to say before we sign out today?
No, I don't have anything at the moment, though. But I just want to say thank you so much for having me on your show again. I am truly appreciative.
No, thank you. Thank you for taking the time, guys. Thank you so much. Again, if you are new to this channel, please go like, share, and subscribe. This is season 3 loading, episode number 1 with Phil the Blerd Explorer, the Black Traveler's Guide. We are signing out. You guys have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
You're welcome. Yeah.